It is time. I'm going to fix the mic. That's what happens when you're live and you just show up at the hotel. Let's get this baby figured out. I have just checked into the Walper Okay, let me know if that is okay on our sound check. Just checked in, got in from London. I had emceed an event this morning. Hopefully you're going to catch the replay of that. It was really cool, all about the event industry. And now here I am in KW. I'm speaking tomorrow for an organization called CanSPEP, which is really an incredible organization. I spoke for them several years ago, and they are senior level meeting planners and professionals in the events industry. So it is going to be an amazing time, but I know I'm running a little bit behind because I had to get checked in and all of that. So it is a Wildcard Wednesday. You know what that means. No prep for Allie, just a random toss of the book. Which page will we land on today? And that will be the topic I'll talk about. So right here, whatever page this is, let's have a look. As long as we haven't already done it. Oh, we haven't done this one, I don't think. So this is exciting because if you have ever been overwhelmed by your workload, this is important. This is an incredibly important principle. The idea of choosing your areas of responsibility. Now, let me put this into context. I don't believe in a traditional to-do list. So I've got all of these different things I need to get done, and I'm going to work through them. I'm going to look at the big list and then prioritize. Okay, I got to do that thing first, this thing first, this thing first. Now, sometimes that's effective, but as an overall strategy, it lacks a way to quantify what is the priority. Okay. And when you're someone who has a lot of areas of responsibility and you wear many hats, someone like me, right? Like, especially if you're a small business owner where you're, marketing one second, sales the next, client service the next, client delivery the next, travel agent the next, right? Chauffeur the next. You have to be able to honor the different roles and responsibilities that you have so that you can choose when you're going to be in which mode. Because if you did the traditional to-do list, which I used to do, by the way, and it didn't account for the fact that when I'm in marketing mode, that's a different set of skills than when I'm in service or delivery mode that, I have to be able to manage. And so the idea with the areas of responsibility is instead of taking that great big long list, we split it up into the different hats that you wear. So for me, actually, where's my... it's in this thing that's my computer sitting on, which is why the computer's crooked, because it's on my briefcase, trying to get, the right height for you. So essentially I have 5 areas of responsibility, and I call these my buckets. And I've worked with clients over the years who have, maybe some have 7, depending. It's probably too many, but somewhere between 5 and 7 is great. So my areas of responsibility are client service, sales, marketing, administration / CEO duties, CEO of my own business, and then personal. And so what happens is when I want to take that great big long list that never ends and put it into my quote unquote task circle, I write out each header, and then I categorize all of the different things that you need to get done into each of the appropriate buckets. Now, the buckets of responsibility in my task circle there they are. Now, I also share here that sometimes I put a project in. So I add on a 6th bucket for a project. So that could be like when I was publishing this book, Take Back Your Weekends, Stress Less, Do More, Be Happier. That was consuming a lot of time. So I didn't want it to go into the marketing bucket or the admin bucket or whatever. It just became its own bucket. And now I don't really have a bucket for this. Some other areas of responsibility that different clients have had: investor relations, human resources, media / PR. So for me, I put that in my marketing bucket. Okay, so you don't have to get so specific. Research, team development, executive relations, reports. So some of my clients like have to do a certain level of reporting for compliance. And so, or they might call it compliance, I guess. Volunteer activities. I'll tell you about that one in a second. And then you might want to add in, like you could actually do this, like the areas of responsibility for your personal task circle as well as your work task circle. Okay. So what that means is when you take that big list and you like, let's say you're just feeling really overwhelmed right now. I want you to go and just write out everything that needs to get done. Like just start to finish, everything you can think of, total brain dump. No, like you don't do anything with it. You just put it down on paper or in a long spreadsheet. Then look for the themes. What are the themes and the areas of responsibility? And that will help you find your particular themes. It also might be your job description. Like I do this with my coaching clients, right? Like we find the right ones. And then you take that great big long list and you start checking things off of the list and putting them into the proper bucket. Now, here's the beauty of looking at your tasks from the lens of areas of responsibility. See, we can only wear one hat at a time. And so if you go and you look at your week and you say, all right, I know I've got to get sales done. Maybe you don't like sales, right? But you got to get it done because that's what's going to be your revenue generator. I know I've got to get that done. When is the best time for me over the course of the week to allot time for sales? Then we look in your calendar and we put that in. Then we go, we want to look at, your clients, right? So when are your client meetings? We can put that in. What do you have to do to prep for your client meetings? Like for me with the speaking, I have a checklist of everything that needs to happen several days before so that I know that I'm organized and not concerned or quote unquote stressed, self-induced destructive stress by not being organized about an event. I know I need to get that done. And so like I can block the time accordingly. Greg is here. Where are you watching today? You're from YouTube. That's so awesome. Thank you. I'm glad you love this. Yeah, because I think you're using this idea, aren't you, Greg? From the book, like you're using the areas of responsibility. It really transformed my life. And it also, like for so many clients, like I've had a lot of people come to me when they have way too much on the go. So I'm not going to say they're in over their head, but they feel like they're in over their head. They have a lot of misplaced emotion around the task. So they get overwhelmed very easily by all of the stuff that needs to get done. Instead of doing the stuff, they tend to be more focused on the fact that, oh my God, I've got to get so much stuff done. It happens. And they also have a lot of hats that they wear. Okay. A lot of hats. And so when we only do the great big long list, we look at it through the lens of I'm wearing the hat of person who needs to get all these tasks done. And the way I want you to be thinking is right now I'm putting on the hat of CEO, which means I'm only focusing on the tasks that are in my CEO bucket. Right now I'm going to put on my marketing hat. And when I put on my marketing hat, then I'm only in creative mode or, whatever happens to be into your marketing bucket. And what this does is it calms the brain for many reasons, at least in my experience. Number one, you can only wear the one hat at a time. So it's more effective to get into the zone on sales than to do one sales call on Monday, 2 on Wednesday and none on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Okay. So we want to go, all right, here's my chunk of time that I'm going to focus on that hat. And then you put in the good stress formula, which I talk about in the book as well, around accountability, goal, and deadline. So you pull that trifecta together and you apply it to whatever hat you're wearing. Okay, so this is so good. But here's where I think it's so powerful. When I first started doing this, I was like, I had my business. I had the column. And when I looked at everything, my volunteer bucket and the tasks that I had to do for other people that were non-revenue generating, but out of the goodness of my heart. Okay. Networking, helping people, or volunteering for charity. being on a board, being on a committee, running an event, whatever. That bucket. Now, see, I use my hands a lot here because the way I do it is, okay, so here's the thing. So I go clients, sales, marketing, admin, I don't know if you can see this or not, personal. Okay, so there becomes my bucket on a bigger piece of paper. And then I put everything in each one, X, Y, Z, right, that has to happen. Okay, so, you can sort of see. But the insight that comes from this, and this is the first insight I got when I started doing it, is that I had a volunteer bucket. And my volunteer bucket was 3 to 4 times longer than my client bucket, my sales bucket, my marketing bucket, and the other two. And so if you're lopsided in your business, so let's say you're really heavy on the sales because you love sales, but you are not doing a whole lot to serve your clients or to keep them engaged, you might be losing money out the back end, bringing them in and not being able to keep them. And then they don't go anywhere, right? Or if you're really big on the marketing, you may find you're not getting the sales because it's just reactive, waiting for the phone to ring. And, great marketing can do that and the phone will ring. My experience is we need to generally, as a business owner, if you're a business owner, like if sales isn't in your bailiwick, then ignore. But you need to do some proactive work as well. Okay. Now, personal, I have a bucket for that. You could do this entire system with your areas of responsibility for your personal life. So maybe you're a spouse, maybe you're a parent, again, volunteering, your self-care, like the CEO of your own body, mind and spirit. You could do that and, fill up your, like I use an 8.5 by 11. Sometimes I use a bigger piece of paper, but I tell you, this for me has been so incredible. And I know it has been for other people. So if you want more on it, I definitely, encourage you to buy the book. Read the book, buy the book. Okay, so Greg is saying, I encourage people to include a bucket that feeds the soul, such as volunteering or mentoring. I know it is not necessarily part of the work task circle, but it is important to be realistic with time. Yes. Okay, so here's why I got rid of my volunteer bucket. Is because I was doing so much volunteer work that I was neglecting my business and my own financial house. And so now I know that my volunteering goes into my personal or into my admin or potentially into my marketing. Okay, as opposed to getting and like really task heavy. And then the other piece is that if I'm mentoring someone, then, or even I guess coaching would be clients, what I would do is I don't necessarily put that onto my task circle because there's no task associated with it except for the fact that they need to book a meeting. And then once there's a meeting, it just gets into my calendar and it gets done. So I've stopped taking on so many follow-up tasks and instead empowered other people to do that because I've got to manage my own time. Now, for everybody, it's a little bit different. Like I did so much volunteering in my 20s and my 30s that I feel okay at this point in my life in my 40s to step back a bit in that role. It doesn't mean I don't give. It doesn't mean I don't participate or help. It's just I know my limitations. And so I was so heavy on the volunteer side that it was to the detriment of my business and, as I said, like my own responsibilities in the world. Having said that, feeding the soul, if your work itself doesn't feed your soul, which for me it does, because like this just makes my heart sing, right? Doing this. If it doesn't feed your soul, then we have to be sure you're putting it in somewhere. And this is where my theme this week for the 30-second tips over on Instagram is how to add more joy into your life. And we talked about that on Monday's resilience reset, like we're doing now. And you've got to proactively be putting that in. And that may be an area of responsibility. So if it's not natural to you, see, for me, it's just so ingrained in who I am now. Like in my personal side, like I just integrate it into everything because I've made that conscious choice and I've practiced for a lot of years to do that. And so if it's not something that is really ingrained in who you are yet, then I would actually make that feeding your soul, self-care, whatever you want that area of responsibility to be, I'd make it a full bucket. To your point, Greg, that's where I'm thinking anyway. And then once it becomes integrated, then it just goes into your personal bucket, or it becomes part of your calendar and you don't even need it as a task, right? Question. Do you find that people have a reluctance to schedule their personal time, even though it is the key to freedom in terms of making them happen? Yeah, it depends who it is and how much guilt they have in their life as a tendency. So I've had some clients who are very guilt-ridden. And so they feel like if the task circle, or if their to-do list, before they start using my terminology, if it's not done, then they feel like a failure. And they're so emotionally connected to the to-do list getting done that when they relax, they can't relax, right? It's just they're spinning, they're thinking about all of it. It's in the back of their head. They're too attached to it. And I'm not suggesting that we need to detach from our purpose and our work. But if our mood is controlled by how much is on our to-do list, we're screwed. Because the to-do list isn't going to end. It's like you are playing a game that you will never win. And to me, that is what is robbing people of their joy. And so, yes, people are concerned or reluctant to schedule it. Not everybody. I think some are totally willing to schedule it. But the way that their calendar, the habit in which they've used their time or that they allow their days to be consumed is not allowing for the space to be like to add that in, right? And this is where we get into making a commitment to yourself, creating boundaries, prioritization, loving yourself enough that you know you deserve it and that you want to do the healthy thing for yourself. So I think people are struggling more with that than it could be either or, right? And then there's the other side where people go so far to the other end. I'm just going to pour myself some water. For those of you following along on my LinkedIn, last night at 1:30 in the morning, yes, that's right, 1:30 a.m., Allison woke up, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready for the day. Haven't slept since. I had a 20-minute cat nap at about 20 to 5 before my alarm went off at 5 o'clock. Yeah, I feel fantastic. So I've driven to KW. I emceed an event this morning. I've got this, and now I'm going to go to the gym. And you know why? Because I've scheduled the gym at 4:15 for at the hotel at the Wildcard, and because you have to, because of COVID, you have to schedule it in advance. And I'm committed to doing 75 hard. So I have to get my second workout in, which is why I was up at 5. And then I had an MRI, which I was really apparently very good at my breathing technique in the MRI. Anyway, not important. Point is, it's been a day and I'm pretty exhausted and I'm still going to put it in. Now, here's the thing. I've got the systems in place that my email is caught up. I've got a few things snoozed for tomorrow morning to respond to. I have, my everything organized. And that's why it's like this whole piece of the puzzle needs to come together, right? So to Greg's question, how do we start schedule? I'm adding into your question now, Greg. How do we make a point of scheduling what's most important? Our self-care, our taking care of ourselves. I guess that's the same thing. How do we include it into our lives? Well, from my perspective, there are two things we have to do in order to get that solution into our calendar. We have to have a better way of solving our problems so that when all of the external stressors are happening around us, they're not pulling us off our game and going in taking us in a million different directions, which is just causing unnecessary destructive stress, which is adding to our workload and making everything harder to actually get done. Okay. So we want to limit the amount of capacity each task or obstacle takes out of our lives. So that's a piece of the puzzle. But the second thing is we've got to have our systems dialed in so that we're getting our shit done. Because it's a lot easier to relax when you know that, first of all of the things you need to do are captured and you're not forgetting anything. And number two, that you have a system for when you're going to get those things done so that you can relax the attachment to those tasks and compartmentalize them for the time when you have it scheduled to get that work done. And it all comes back to the hat you're wearing. So let's say you have the same buckets as I do. You do sales, you do marketing, you do client. If the emails are coming in for sales things and you're like, yeah, but I got to do the speech prep. I mean, that's my world. And so it feels like a trade-off. But when you think in terms of areas of responsibility, when I'm putting on my client hat and I'm prepping for my speech, I'm not wearing my sales hat, right? So it's over there and I trust that it's over there. And then when I take off my client prep hat, right, hang it up, and when I put on my sales hat, then I go over to the sales bucket and I go, okay, what do I got to do here in sales? But I'll tell you, if when you're doing the client work, you're worried about sales or worried about marketing or worried about your administration because you got to get your taxes done or your bookkeeping or whatever, then you're just going to go around and round and round and round. And then how do you ever have time left over to relax? There you go. That's my thinking. Anyway, that's my day today. My resilience reset, my little roundabout with the task circle to help you hopefully get out of overwhelm if you're in it. And if you're not in overwhelm, that's fine. Great. Good for you. Let's create even better systems so you can get more done and be less stressed and ultimately be happier, because isn't that what we all want? All right. I'm going to throw it out there. Don't forget, I'm a speaker. That's what I do. So I come into companies, I work with the C-suite leaders and their teams, and I want to inspire a problem-solving culture so that people start dealing with all these obstacles and the tasks that they're dealing with faster, so it stops sucking the enthusiasm out of teams. If we can strip away some of this stuff, I mean, obviously I have better words when I'm not 1:30 in the morning awake. Like, that's what I want to do. So if you are planning a conference, know someone who is, or have a team that requires some training and a little bit of a stress reduction, if you're concerned about burnout at all, let's talk. Just like to remind you what I'm doing here. Okay, that was today's riff. So happy for you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I can't wait to see you next time. Oh, tomorrow I'm going to be speaking. Speaking of speaking, I think I'm going to be speaking at the exact same time that we would be going live. So I have another surprise for you. Stay tuned. It's coming. It'll be worth tuning in for tomorrow at 3:50. So have a beautiful night. Until tomorrow, may you stress less, do more, and be happier. Bye for now.